Hi, my name is Jeremy Donald. I'm a librarian at Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas. And I teach classes, I work with students and faculty and help them use technology and discover resources.
Great. And I'm Mike Winiski. I'm the Associate Director for the Center for Teaching and Learning here at Furman. And like Jeremy, I teach classes and I also work with faculty to design courses, assessments, and assignments. So let's get started. What's our goal for this video series?
All right, well, what we're going to do is introduce a model for designing instruction. And so this is going to be something that you all can use to adapt and plan instruction in any different number of disciplines, scenarios, and situations. It particularly works when you have a lot of online content you want to deliver to students.
Is this model only applicable to online courses?
I'm glad you asked. It works fine for online courses. It also really works well for traditional courses. So situations where you really have a classroom with an instructor and students and some homework, maybe some of that's online, maybe not. It works particularly well as well for hybrid courses and blended courses. So these are situations where you have both online and face-to-face instruction, but maybe the face-to-face part is reduced a little bit in favor of giving more time to the online work.
Okay. I have to admit that it makes me kind of wary when we start to talk about teaching and models.
Sure.
And is this a creativity killer? Is it prescriptive?
Yeah, no, I have the same concern. I don't like sort of being told how to teach or being put in a box or being asked to use something that doesn't fit with my style. One of the things I like about this model is that it really is flexible when it comes to stylistic concerns. You can have any sort of variety of theories about teaching and learning, and this still works. Think of it more like a checklist or a set of guidelines. And it really ensures that you have a variety of different kinds of things built into your instruction design. And the real point is to engage students in the best way possible.
Great. So I'm going to be a little bit selfish here, and I'm going to take a class that I'm working on right now as an example. I teach geographic information systems, which is mapping and spatial analysis. And I'm teaching it in a traditional format, but I'm also moving it into a hybrid format.
Okay.
And it's been very challenging to come up with the right mix of what happens in and out of class. So maybe this model can help with that.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's start with maybe thinking about where you had planned to begin with the lesson and where your students would first encounter the material.
Yeah, sure. So there's some stuff that I think they need to know right off the bat.
Okay.
And one of them is vocabulary. Especially around color theory. So we're talking about color use in maps, and it helps if we have a shared language.
Okay.
The other thing is data classification. How are the data chunked up and represented on a map? Right. So these are things that I think they should know. And my first inclination is I'll create some online lectures about this, and that's the first thing that I'll have students do.
Okay.
And then there's part of me that says, well, some of my worst experiences in class started with, today class we're going to talk about X, and this is the result
Right.
that I often get. And it's because I haven't given any context, I haven't linked it to their experience. And so in an online environment, this is even more insidious because I can't see this. Live I can adapt, I can ask questions, but this could be happening in a dorm room or someone's home, and I don't know that this is a problem. So
They might not even be there where the content is playing.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I know what it feels like because, as instructors, we know the material really well. And we're excited about it. And so it can be a little bit frustrating when it's not even paid attention to, or when it doesn't seem very exciting to students.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if we could think a little bit about maybe where the end point might be. I mean, you're going to teach them some of this content. How would they apply it, or what would they do with it?
yeah, it's a great question, and I'm going to use a map to illustrate that. So if you take a look at this map here, the interesting thing about each of these graphs is that they were created with the same underlying data set.
Oh, okay.
And so I just don't want the students to get snookered by a map.
Yeah, well, I feel a little bit snookered now, I have to admit. I wouldn't have guessed that these were from the same data set. So this is the same year and same place and everything.
The data are just chunked differently.
Wow, okay. Because if you look at map A, to me that looks like it says that in terms of burglaries in Philadelphia that there are very few. And then I look at the map to its right, map B, and that seems to say almost the exact opposite, that there's a lot of burglaries in Philadelphia.
Right. So these are important concepts so that the students don't get snookered. And I think, probably I should use a better term. And you asked about, what do I want them to do? instead of snookered, let's say I want them to critique maps.
Sure. So I imagine when you say critique, it means applying some of this knowledge in a particular way or several ways. So let's just talk a bit about how to unpack critique into some specific methods or.
Yeah, it's a pretty complicated thing, right?
Yeah.
So off the bat, I can think that you need to interpret, right? And you need to analyze as part of critiquing.
Okay.
And you also need to communicate. You need to tell people what you're thinking. And so when you look at what I want them to do versus what I want them to know, the vocabulary is really important when it comes to communicating. The data classification, as you saw, with the representation of quantile and equal interval on those crime maps, is really important to critiquing. And this is helping me see that if I step back a little bit, really, in addition to doing, I want them to have a particular mindset. When they approach a map,
Okay.
I want them to be skeptical.
Sure. Right, and that sort of brings together the knowing and the doing.
Right.
Yeah, right. Okay, so it occurs to me that that's maybe, if you could have all that happen as sort of the introduction to the content, and then maybe go back and fill in some of the knowledge and maybe some of the methods and techniques, then you'd really have them start off by being snookered and then move pretty quickly to being skeptical, and maybe sort of unpack that at the same time as you move forward into the rest of the content.
Right.
Okay.
In this exercise, my inclination is to go right to what do I want them to know. And you asked about what I want them to do, and that really helped me step back and say that, this higher order thing is really what I want to focus and lead with. So as we talk about the model, we'll keep in mind that this is my highest order goal as we move ahead.
Sure. Great. Well, the next thing we'll do is we'll take a look at the model. We'll sort of examine it in terms of its general concepts. And then in the next videos after that, we'll look at it as applied to your course. So we'll see that as an example. And then finally in video 4, we'll talk about how to think of the model in terms of some general considerations for applying it to your own courses.
Sounds great.
Great.
Let's do it.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.